for decades, and we need to deal with the cost of living, moving to a high-wage, high-productivity economy, which is, I think, what this country needs to be. And to do that, we need new legislation. We've got to be bringing forward new and important bills, and that's why we are going to have a Queen's speech, and we're going to do it on October the 14th.
And this was the reaction from the Speaker of the House of Commons, John Bercow. Just a short while ago, he released this statement saying, "This move represents a constitutional outrage." It goes on to say that shutting down Parliament would be an offence against the democratic process and the rights of parliamentarians as the people's elected representatives. This is either an incredibly clever government manoeuvre to head off these pesky parliamentarians who are plotting and scheming to do all sorts of things to try and derail Boris Johnson's plan, or this is a huge affront to democracy and a constitutional outrage.
Yes, well, Boris has essentially called the bluff of the opposition MPs who've been meeting over the last couple of weeks to try and come up with a plan to stop a no-deal Brexit. Obviously, there has been a huge amount of anger in response to this move. What he's done is he's extended the recess period that British politicians get here in order to attend their party conferences. He's extended that from 3 weeks to 5 weeks, essentially closing down a good chunk of time where these MPs had hoped to try and bring forward some kind of new legislation in the Commons to stop him in his tracks from leaving without a deal. Right,
so the legislative option seems to have been shut off pretty much as a consequence of this. What about the vote of no confidence in the government that Lawrence just referred to? Could the opposition MPs, plus the rebels within the Conservative Party, could they muster the numbers in order to make the government fall?
Well, initially the numbers for a vote of no confidence looked quite difficult because the kind of following procedure, we couldn't seem to get any answers on whether they would support the possibility of Jeremy Corbyn, the Labour leader, leading a caretaker government. This was the plan. He would lead a caretaker government, extend the Article 50 process, essentially pushing the Brexit deadline further away and calling a general election. But there has been a significant amount of anger from pro-Remain Conservative MPs today at this action by Boris Johnson. So it seems very likely now that there would be enough of them who would be potentially willing to vote to bring down their own government.
And what about the role of the DUP, of course, the Northern Irish Party, who have this arrangement with the government of confidence and supply vote? How are they viewing this manoeuvre, this tactic?
Well, there hasn't been a huge amount of response for them yet. Generally, they have been backing Mr. Johnson. Obviously, if there's a general election, their position could be changed. If Mr. Johnson wins a majority, their support will be less required in the new Parliament. But they have been relatively supportive of his position. Obviously, they are very against this backstop proposal that has been the kind of hurdle in the Brexit negotiations. This is the procedure, the insurance policy that stops it from being a hard border on the island of Ireland. But Mr. Johnson has essentially said that he will agree no new deal with the EU that includes the backstop policy in any form. So obviously, you know, this is something that they're incredibly interested in.
All right, John Johnston, thank you very much.